start levers. Free, closed and off. Number 4 electric hydraulic pump and press. On and checked. Parking brake. Set and press checked. Radios, radar, and transponder. Set and standby.
HB-88, this is Control. IMU.
Alignment in progress.
It was, Buckaroo Banzai said, exactly like Professor Hikita had glimpsed in 1938 through the overthruster he and Dr. Emilio Lizardo put together from spare parts in a laboratory at Princeton. 1938. Can you imagine what it must have been like then?
Rawhide, come in. Rawhide.
Yo, Buckaroo, what's up? Where Hades are you? I'm getting a lot of static here.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, if it wasn't Buckaroo Banzai, I'd say commit the man.
Get me SAC headquarters, Omaha NORAD, and the Strategic Space Command. I want some hard data on that cloud. John, get out in the field.
Well, Mrs. Johnson, thank you. It's certainly food for thought.
The equations. Solve them. Enter your data on this keypad. And you better be right. The shock tower is a lie detector. Any falsehood triggers a brutal charge to your auditory meatus. So?
You're not getting jack from me until you let Penny out of this junkyard.
Curse you, Banzai! Don't you realize what you're saying? Your whole plan is going to be destroyed and you sit here wasting time.
Time? I got nothing but time.
I hate to tell you. Where are we going? This way.
Extinguish all the smoking material.
We haven't a chance, you overthrust us for shit! Rules!
One more word out of you, big booty!
Big foot Tay! 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 It was, Buckaroo Banzai said, exactly like Professor Hikita had glimpsed in 19...
Please clear the launch grid. Please clear the launch grid. B, C, D. Clear the area. E.
Control, this is HB-88. Commander's voice check, over.
Roger, HB-88. Read your 10-2 out.
Over.
HB-88, this is Control. APU start is go. You are on your onboard computer, over.
Roger, I copy.
Altimeters set and cross-checked. Compasses cross-checked. Reserve brake system 2. Closed and guarded. Gear handle. Down and in. Throttles and start levers. Free, closed and off. Number 4 electric hydraulic pump and press. On and checked. Parking brake. Set and press checked. Radios, radar, and transponder. Set and standby.
HB-88, this is Control. IMU.
Alignment in progress.
show nuclear carburation seems fine.
88, this is Control.
APU start is go. You're on your onboard computer, over. They are reading you on the localizer downrange. Looks good, over. HB-88. Horizontal velocity is expanding, over.
3, 2.
He is off course. This is Chase 1, over. He has broken trajectory and is...
50 cylinder. There is an immediate fire hazard, over. Do you read?
Roger.
Do you read? Axis negative. Pneumatic pressure negative.
We are looking at 500 degrees.
We are in pursuit. He is gaining, over.
The air cycle packs are not maintaining...
Eject, Buckaroo! Eject!
HB-88, do you read? Do you read, over? This is Control, do you read?
Hotel Bravo, 88. Do you read? This is Chase 1. We got his tracks. They go right up to a wall of rock. Holy shit!
This is Chase 2, Chase 2. We see him, we see him. He's gone through it. He's gone through the mountain.
Has deployed there. There is a minimal disturbance in the electromagnetic field. Anti-gravity inertia is normal. Mass acceleration is diminishing, over. He is okay. The vehicle is hot, but we are showing no radioactivity, over. HB-88, this is Control. We see you. Welcome home, over. We show electrical field aberrations on the windshield. We are getting a localized vibration off the drive.
B, C, D. Clear the area!
Control, this is HB-88. Commander's voice check, over.
My name is W.D. Richter. I'm sitting here today getting ready to look at the movie for the first time in probably 5 or 6 years because I was selected in 1983 by the Banzai Institute to direct the documentary, the docudrama we call it, based on the Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. I'm not here alone. I have with me from the Banzai Institute Reno of Memphis, who penned the novelization, which really wasn't a novelization, was a novel that existed before the movie but was withheld from me until after the film. Reno, I don't know if you want to say anything about why you're here, but there you are.
I'm hanging with Rick this morning, and just got into town last night, and I'm bringing, word from Buckaroo that he's really looking forward to the new DVD, and he's happy about it. The man is happy. I saw him yesterday, and he was really thrilled.
This became necessary because we just didn't think we could get the movie off on the right foot if we didn't have something concise that just pinned him at least as much as you can pin Buckaroo.
Yeah, there's so much. I mean, so much. Where do you begin?
The first day of photography, that's where you begin, and you're scared. Even the title is problematic. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai was forced on us by the studio. It was going to be Buckaroo Banzai, but they said, "Oh, that's just too strange a combination of words. We have to do something else and stick some words on the top and on the bottom." And yeah, you fight the big battles to win, and you let the little ones go, and everybody calls it Buckaroo Banzai. I see we have wonderful actors here. They got into the spirit of it, came aboard really enthusiastically. They're almost first choices across the board. And, you can't do it without people like that, just like Buckaroo can't. So there's some analogy you could draw here to Team Banzai in the real world and Team Banzai making this movie. I needed all these people to pull this off. We pretty much got our first choices in one incredible week. We were ready to say that if Lithgow said no to play Lizardo, we'd go to Chris Lloyd, who would have done a wonderful job too, but Lithgow said yes. So we pretty much filled the roster with people we heard would satisfy the Institute and certainly satisfied us, because this is just a great collection. This was a tricky movie to shoot. Nobody ever has enough time and enough money to do that, but we truly didn't because, it was made independently. We were sort of out there on a shoestring dealing with a lot of special effects and vehicles and a large cast. And I think the second day of photography, we're out in the desert, and it was wickedly hot, and the studio was on our back for script changes that we'd made during rehearsal that were really inconsequential. So the whole process was exhausting. It's why I didn't direct another film for many, many years, and why I haven't directed one since then. I find it harder sometimes than I think it's worth. I don't know how many days we shot. I forget that stuff almost immediately because you're just so happy to be out of it. Even though you like what you did, your memory of it is, I don't know how we did it. Every shot has to be planned in a thing like this. Initially, we had a much more elaborate storyboard sequence because Mac Roush wrote a sequence that involved the jet cars having to do battle with other vehicles. Ironically, very much like the Foundation imaging trailer you saw when the aliens were chasing it, but it just was impossible for us to shoot it. So we stripped it clean, storyboarded it this way. You have to work very closely with all these people, especially if you're directing this kind of stuff for the first time. So some of the stuff is sort of going to be a mystery to me until I see the effects coming in. Now, here's Professor Hikita, and Perfect Tommy, who really is the design genius of the jet car. Professor Hikita is the fellow who you saw in the home movie opening sequence who saved Buckaroo as a little boy. And they are right now throwing that oscillation overthruster into operation.
There's still nobody in the world that can do this.
There's nobody that...
This 20 years, and there's still nobody that can go through solid matter yet.
Yeah.
Except the one man.
Yeah, one man. I had gotten Jordan Cronenweth, the guy who shot Blade Runner. I thought that was a pretty wonderful fellow to have by your side. He was, instrumental in giving us this look. If you can hold in your head the image of the blockhouse and sort of transpose that kind of lighting into this scene, you wouldn't have half of what we have here. At one point, when she takes a swig of that, this incredible string of spittle came out of her mouth, and the thing is backlighted, man, and you can't do that with front light. There are fluorescent fixtures lying on the floor in places that just give kicks of blue and yellow. It's a real sneaky way this movie was going to be lighted.
Don't be mean.
We shot this movie out of sequence, obviously. There was certainly not the luxury to do it chronologically. And you can see there's so many places we have to jump around that my recollection was that we were behind schedule every morning I woke up, and somehow got to the end of the day and kept going. But there's an urgency behind the scenes that these actors don't show that. They have a wonderful, easy manner. Jeff Goldblum's just nails his character for me. it's a difficult role. You know, I mean, he's potentially a buffoon, but Jeff gives him enough dignity to rescue him from the wardrobe that we hung all over him there. To take, I have to assume stuff like the following. She is Penny Pretty. She's a pretty. She is Peggy's twin sister. I think one of the reasons that Buckaroo liked Peggy was she's an extraordinarily bright person as well as a beautiful person. And Penny, who has no self-respect at all, is obviously extremely well-read, actually understands what she's read. And it's a classic case of a person with a low self-esteem, Buckaroo already bringing out of her, it's one of his gifts. He finds people down on their luck and sees their strengths and encourages them to bring those things forward. And so that's going on in this scene, independent of all this other stuff. But let me try to explain this red glasses thing. I had a fellow on the set who was put there by Beagleman to make sure we were behaving, staying on schedule, essentially shooting the script. But when Beagleman saw the red glasses on Buckaroo, he called me into the office and said, you've used them, took me off the set and said, you've used red glasses on Buckaroo. Heroes don't wear red glasses. And I said, well, I mean, I'm not going to debate that with you, but don't worry, he doesn't wear them the whole movie. He wears them only 3 times. And later on, when we put him on the 3rd time, this was the case where it was put on the 3rd time. Even though it's not the 3rd time he's wearing them in the movie since we shot it out of sequence, Beagleman shut the film down and said to me, I literally I will cancel this movie if you're going to continue to defy me that way. And I said, I haven't. This is the 3rd time. And he said, I told you only twice. Fortunately, Sidney Beckerman, who was Beagleman's friend, was in the room. He's the producer of the movie. And he said, the only time you really came to my aid, he said, David, I was here, you said 3. And Beagleman, in one of those rare moments where a contemporary told him he was wrong, sort of actually was taken aback, admitted he probably had forgotten, and looked at me and then and said, I mean 3. You put it on one more time and I'll shut the movie down. And he wasn't kidding. But what nerve does this touch in this many, many different kinds of people who call themselves, Blue Blazer regulars or the fans of Buckaroo Banzai? I just look back at the whole thing and say it says something about people working together, finding kind of a rhythm in their lives that allows them to help each other and bring the best out of each other. And I think secretly that's what we'd all like to walk into every morning, whether we're going to an office or a movie studio or a car dealership or a septic pumping company. You just want to walk in and feel like everybody's your buddy and everybody's working as a team to, have a good time and get the job done. And that's what Buckaroo stands for. There's no bitterness or anger or prejudice or anything like that in the man. And it's encouraging to me that people are getting excited about that.
Man, I've seen so many wonderful stories. People show up at the Institute. A guy might be a plumber on the outside, but all his life he's wanted to be part of the Buckaroo Banzai team, or he's wanted to make music or be a painter or whatever. And, it changes lives. I've seen so many lives changed, and I've seen the world change. The thing is with the Buckaroo Institute, it tells you can be whatever you want to be. I mean, obviously, I'm not from Memphis, Tennessee. You can tell by my accent I'm not from Memphis. I mean, I like to be from Memphis, but that's why I chose my name, Reno, Memphis, But you can become something more than you are. And I think if you put your heart and soul into it, you can change the world.
Hey, buddy.
Mac had come to Los Angeles to try to be a screenwriter because I stumbled across a book he'd written while he was in college, and it was called Arkansas Adios, and it was a wonderful piece of writing, and I tracked him down through his publisher, and he wasn't doing anything that particularly satisfied him in Texas, and I lured him to California with the promise of riches, and he showed up one day, and early on in our relationship just told me and my wife Susan one night over dinner that he had a story about a guy named Buckaroo Bandy, and he wanted to kind of write it, and told us a little bit about it. He did not say it was based on a real person. And we said, it sounded like a serial, it's felt kind of goofy and funny, and we gave him a little bit of money and said, because we had a fledgling production company at that time, and said, go ahead, write it. And Mac would go away and come back with 30 pages, come back with 20 pages. we would make comments. He'd revise it by throwing out all the pages and coming in with 40 new ones, and character names began to appear, come and go. And one day, Buckaroo Bandy turned into Buckaroo Banzai. And he said something like, it's probably a stupid idea. And we said, don't you dare throw that name out. And the guy never, ever, I think he set us up. I think he knew that we would be seduced by that name, and he attempted to take it away from us, and we wouldn't let him. So, watch Lewis Smith in the middle there during this. He almost loses it, laughs.
Hypnotized Orson Welles into covering it up. So first he says there's an invasion from Mars, but then he says, no, it's just a radio show hoax. Get it?
No, let's go. Orson Welles. What about Yo-Yo-Dine? What about Doc?
The watermelon, from my point of view, is there because we had just decided to take a confrontational posture in the face of David Beagleman, who really felt that that we were out of control. And at some point, we speculated, stopped even looking at our dailies because he had stopped writing hard on us. And we thought, there's one way to find out if we're right about that. We'll just take a scene that has no reference to a watermelon and stick a watermelon in a vise that was in the factory we were using. I'd seen some watermelons being sold on the street as we were driving by on the way to the set, and Mike Riva went and got them, and we did this. And that just confirmed it for us. They had given up on us, and we then could take any kind of risks we wanted as long as we stayed on budget and on schedule. They had just sort of said, we'll get them when they try to release this sucker. We also have totally looped Ron Lacey, the actor playing the president, because Beagleman said, I can't understand him. Well, Ron was doing Citizen Kane here. I think you can kind of see Orson Welles hanging upside down there. And I was forced, to have him looped. And if I didn't, they would. So I stuck around to make sure I could get it, as good as could be. But it's not Ron's performance. It was really neat. John Lithgow's stuff was, I don't want to say shot in chronological order, but kind of close together. And so he just sort of unleashed this character on the set, and it was entertainment for about 2 weeks straight. I remember not being able to direct him because I was just trying not to laugh. If you've never seen this and you're standing there and it's happening right in front of you, it's an amazing thing. Now, the shock tower, that's really not the name of it. I had to come up with some name, and I was in a BMW dealership having my old BMW worked on, and we were in pre-production, and I was in the waiting room reading a magazine, and the guy came out and delivered the verdict, and he said, you need a new shock tower. And I thought, aha, that's what we'll call that thing. Because we didn't have names for everything. We weren't told what anybody called anything. It's just strange science.
Right.
One of the problems that I had to grapple with in this was the electroid's ability to use what's called electronic brainwashing to make people see them as human beings rather than what you're looking at right now. There is a concept here that's in play in this scene, and that the Lizardo is walking around as himself because Worfin's using his body. These electroids on the left side and the right side have only alien bodies. I know I said a little earlier, I share everybody's confusion on this point, that they inhabited ordinary human beings, and that's why they didn't have to have this kind of inner war going on. But I think the truth is closer to the fact that they walk around always in their alien bodies and have the ability electronically to make people see them as they want them to see them. And we had to go with a kind of careful dance there to say there would be moments when we would use the electroid masks to say they've dropped their guard. They're not trying to hide from the movie audience, they're trying to hide from any Earthlings, and in that scene there were no Earthlings. In this scene, it's a surprise to them that the Earthlings are in there, and they're sort of caught with their pants down and their electroid heads on. And I suppose they could brainwash Buckaroo, but certain things you would drive the audience nuts, throwing human faces in and out of here. So the conceit is, right now, they're electroids, the jig's up, they're clearly going somewhere, and boxing gloves. Look at the boxing gloves on that electroid. And their plaid pants and polka dot shirts. We found a book about ordinary Russians, an amazing collection of photographs of Russian everyday wear, and I guess it was probably from the 60s or probably the 70s. And their outfits are based on strange collections of plaids and polka dots and mismatched patterns. Well, I think the general public just shied away from it, and that was very disappointing to us because we initially weren't even aware that there was a big fan base building of people who were really, really moved by it. I don't know what the right word is. So a lot of disappointment and a lot of a sense of, we tried something that was a little too strange and we failed. But every year it got more interesting when the fan base kind of coalesced and they started newsletters and then the internet really let everything loose. And now, I'm thrilled to have made this movie because it's really obvious it made a lot of people happy. That really means a lot to me.
This was a tough scene to watch for some of us.
It looks like the end of Buckaroo. He's replaying the awful moment when he found Peggy dead. This is a final goodbye. I don't think he understands what's inside him from that encounter with electroids. The good ones are going to reward him here for what he's just done. See, we have wonderful actors here. They got into the spirit of it, came aboard really enthusiastically. They're almost first choices across the board. And, you can't do it without people like that, just like Buckaroo can't. So there's some analogy you could draw here to Team Banzai in the real world and Team Banzai making this movie. I needed all these people to pull this off. We pretty much got our first choices in one incredible week. We were ready to say that if Lithgow said no to play Lizardo, we'd go to Chris Lloyd, who would have done a wonderful job too, but Lithgow said yes. So we pretty much filled the roster with people we heard would satisfy the Institute and certainly satisfied us, because this is just a great collection. This was a tricky movie to shoot. Nobody ever has enough time and enough money to do that, but we truly didn't because, it was made independently. We were sort of out there on a shoestring dealing with a lot of special effects and vehicles and a large cast, and I think the second day of photography we're out in the desert, and it was wickedly hot, and studio was on our back for script changes that we'd made during rehearsal that were really inconsequential. So the whole process was exhausting. It's why I didn't direct another film for many, many years and why I haven't directed one since then. I find it harder sometimes than I think it's worth. I don't know how many days we shot. I forget that stuff almost immediately because you're just so happy to be out of it. Even though you like what you did, your memory of it is, I don't know how we did it. Every shot has to be planned in a thing like this. Initially, we had a much more elaborate storyboard sequence because Mac Roush wrote a sequence that involved the jet cars having to do battle with other vehicles. Ironically, very much like the Foundation imaging trailer you saw when the aliens were chasing it, but it just was impossible for us to shoot it. So we stripped it clean, storyboarded it this way. You have to work very closely with all these people, especially if you're directing this kind of stuff for the first time. So some of the stuff is sort of going to be a mystery to me until I see the effects coming in. Now, here's Professor Hikita, and Perfect Tommy, who really is the design genius of the jet car. Professor Hikita is the fellow who you saw in the home movie opening sequence who saved Buckaroo as a little boy. And they are right now throwing that oscillation overthruster into operation.
There's still nobody in the world that can do this.
There's nobody that...
This 20 years, and there's still nobody that can go through solid matter yet.
Yeah.
Except the one man.
Yeah, one man. I had gotten Jordan Cronenweth, the guy who shot Blade Runner. I thought that was a pretty wonderful fellow to have by your side. He was, instrumental in giving us this look. If you can hold in your head the image of the blockhouse and sort of transpose that kind of lighting into this scene, you wouldn't have half of what we have here. At one point, when she takes a swig of that, this incredible string of spittle came out of her mouth, and the thing is backlighted, man, and you can't do that with front light. There are fluorescent fixtures lying on the floor in places that just give kicks of blue and yellow. It's a real sneaky way this movie was going to be lighted.
Don't be mean.